Hello, everybody. Welcome or welcome back. My name is Ava, aka Queen Midas, Life Alchemist, and I am here with my lovely friend Liz. Hello, Liz. How are you today?
Hey, I'm good.
Awesome. So you all, some of you may have seen Liz on some other channels like Bryce's channel, and also she was, touted as like the TikTok queen like for a while. So yeah, Liz, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, what your platform is like?
Yeah, so I started technically my platform, I guess, back in 2020, as we all kind of did when things kind of went crazy. Originally it's funny because it's very unlike me to be outspoken about things, or it has been in the past, but I actually had a troll comment on one of my videos and say, "You're a trumpet, I'm out of here." And I was like, challenge accepted.
Yeah.
And,
compliment.
yeah. And so I just started posting what would be considered conspiracy things on my TikTok, and it kind of just grew from there. I've expanded to, most people know about my like t-shirt business.
I was wearing the Divine Feminine one earlier today.
Oh, nice. I'm always wearing a t-shirt these days because I have so many now. But yeah, so expanded to my t-shirt business, and then I created a YouTube earlier this year. I focus on very different things on my TikTok and on my YouTube. On YouTube, I focus on kind of like what Ava does, like, just getting people to look inward and heal themselves and work on themselves, because that's where the real change is. And then on TikTok, I focus on more what's going on in the world, political things, and that kind of area. Current events, let's say. So yeah, that's kind of what I do on my channels. And I met Ava through Bryce, and we've done a few videos together. And I'm just happy to be on here with you.
Awesome. Well, I'm happy to have you. So welcome. All right, you all. So we're going to talk about fasting again. And I think the last time that we talked about it is Easter in April or May? Sometime around.
I think it was in April this year. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we talked a little bit about fasting, but Liz and I wanted to go a little deeper and talk more about our experiences. So we're just going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to start off with a little bit of the background, like the physiology that happens with us on a cellular level when we go into a fasted state. So there is a process called autophagy that happens. In Greek, it actually means self-eating. So when this happens, it's usually between 8 to 16 hours of a fasted state, meaning you have not eaten, and then the drinks that you're drinking are pretty much just water or unsweetened tea, like no carbs, no anything else. So during autophagy, the body cleans out the old cells and recycles that cellular material to regenerate new and healthier cells. And this was actually discovered in 2016 by the biologist Yoshinori Osumi. He discovered autophagy in his study on how cells detoxify and repair themselves. So he's the one that kind of found out this time window that it happens between 8 and 16 hours. And he actually suggests that people intermittent fast or fast intermittently 2 to 3 times a week for the health benefits, which is really, really easy if you just stop eating at a certain time in the early evening, and then you don't eat until like later. You're sleeping for however many hours of that anyway. So it's really not that hard to give up a meal, and I'm pretty sure a lot of us can stand to do that anyway.
Right.
Like, no shade, but a lot of us here eat. So yeah, so this process, like I said, it starts to kick in at between 8 to 16 hours of a fasted state. And during that time, there's a special protein that's called an autophagy an autophagosome, and that forms and begins to collect and remove the damaged cells within our bodies. And that includes cancer cells, bacterial and viral cells. So that's really awesome that we go into this like self-healing state. And it also causes our body to, because we're depriving it of carb overload. If you think about our meals here in America, and maybe even in other parts of the world, like the UK, as fast food is becoming more and more of a thing, our meals, our diet is like flooded with carbs, sugar, carbs, breads, chips, cereal, all of that stuff. You know, even fruit is, sugars break down to carbs. Simple as that. So we move from a glucose driven state where there's free glucose in the bloodstream, where we're sugar burning for fuel, and we move into a ketogenic state where we are burning fat as fuel. So this is actually awesome because our body starts to shift that energy, that fuel source, and goes toward burning fat stores, which is great if we have some, you know, some extra fat that we need to lose, especially if it's visceral fat, you know, around our organs, which is, it leads to a lot of chronic disease and is linked to morbidity as well. So during that fat burning mode, also, instead of using protein from our muscles, because that could be another fuel source, but it's usually, I believe, the last option because it's so much more metabolically expensive to use. Instead of using protein from our muscles as a source, the body ends up using the proteins from the broken down cells. So that's awesome. And it uses those proteins to make more proteins, white blood cells, stem cells, and it just makes our metabolism so much more efficient. So it's like we end up helping ourselves by depriving ourselves of just extra stuff that we probably don't necessarily need, like the carb overload that we are inundated with here. So I'm going to talk about some health benefits, and you all, this is not a medical claim. I am not a doctor. It's not a doctor. These are just this is just some information that's been pulled from studies. Also, Liz and I have both fasted personally several times, and then also I just did some research and pulled some stuff together to help empower and give you all more knowledge. So I'm going to talk about some health benefits. So we get a renewed immune system when we do this. So again, I talked about the self-healing aspect. It helps to improve arthritis, reverse diabetes as well, because we're you know, shifting the blood sugar state and helping to regulate. It also helps to lower blood pressure, which is awesome. It improves our skin. Who doesn't want that? It lessens degenerative diseases within the brain. So if you think about like Alzheimer's, Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, what else? The dementia. One, Parkinson's. What else did you say?
Dementia.
Yes, dementia. So I found that really, really interesting. You know, I'm not telling people what to do, but I think that is a very interesting thing on the list, that like benefit there. I've never would have connected that to brain disease, lessening of the degenerative brain disease, but it makes sense if we're starving those damaged cells. It also leads to a reduction or potential reversal in early stages of cancer. As I mentioned, that cancer cells are targeted during this time, anti-aging, longevity, and overall improved health. Those are all awesome things to improve the quality of our lives when we are constantly attacked and from every which way in our air, food, our water, our clothing, the products we use, perfumes, gas, whatever, you know, like, how awesome is that we can do this on our own and we don't have to spend money to fast? Right. In fact, we save money because we're not eating. Everybody wins. Right. So yeah, and then the long-term if you're long-term fast for several days, the benefits actually increase, the health benefits increase, and then you also start to experience spiritual benefits. So that's what Liz and I are going to get deeper into. Do you want to talk a little about your experiences with fasting, Liz?
Yeah, I mean, I heavily started fasting probably, I mean, it had to be like maybe like 8 years ago. Yeah. So like 8 years ago was when I really started to get into fasting. And it was just from a intuitive point. Like I didn't know anything about it, didn't know any of that. um, Still didn't till this day. I knew some of it, but not all of it. Yeah, it came from, I was actually in Mozambique where my husband is from. And I just had this feeling that I just needed to not eat for like 3 days. And I was like, don't know why. I never had that feeling before. I was just like, I don't want anything. I don't want to eat. I just want to drink water. And it really actually healed my relationship with food because, and myself, because my family has issues with food. It's just like, it's in our DNA. Something happened, it's in our DNA. And I always felt kind of like a victim to food. And I think a lot of people, especially in America, can relate to that. It's just like you eat it because it's there. You don't listen to your body when it tells you it's done. You just eat everything on your plate. And then sometimes you, as a child, like I get yelled at if I didn't eat everything on my plate, and that's a whole psychological thing. But so I had a really weird relationship with food and sugar specifically. Probably had some parasites, but I had this urge when I was meeting my husband. I met him over there, and it's really funny because before me and Ava started, we talked kind of about this like divine feminine, meeting your twin flame. And I've like recently discovered that I think my husband is my twin flame. I'm like, that would make so much sense. Like it just would. And this like divine feminine energy started rising up in me, and it was completely unknown to me. And for some reason I like needed to fast. And so I did, and I felt amazing. And I had more energy and, than I ever had before. I didn't know I could feel so good, basically. And I did that. I think I would do that like weekly because I was in Mozambique for 3 months. And I would do that weekly where I would just fast for 3 days. And it just became a habit. And I started to see the changes in my body. I started to kind of like to see the change in my brain of how I was just like thinking and like almost like stopping before I reacted to things.
Wow, yeah.
It was really interesting. And I think I was like 19 at the time. So I was like pretty young, but it continued. So once I came back from Mozambique, I started to do longer fasts. I think the longest one I ever did was 27 days. Wow. And I ate nothing. And my body completely shrunk and transformed. And it released a lot of baggage that was trapped in my body. Like that's the only way that I could really explain it. And then I would start reincorporating foods back in when I would start eating again, because I heard this quote that says, any fool can fast, but it takes a wise man to break a fast. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to be very wise with how I broke it, because I didn't want to do any damage to my body after what had been done, positively. And so I would, start reincorporating food into my body. I started with like, fruits and vegetables, like raw. And then I started to try to eat chicken and stuff like that. And I was like, this is literally dead. I am putting something dead in my body, like gross. And I mean, not to say like I'm not a vegan anymore. I was like a full raw vegan, but I feel like that's what I needed for that time. And I've kind of grown out of it in a sense. I don't really need that anymore. But yeah, so it became I started to see the physical changes as well as like the spiritual changes. And then I got into what's called fascia blasting, which is a release of your fascial tissue. It's really intense, but let me tell you, that'll release some trauma. Yeah. Trauma and baggage and all that kind of stuff. And it all coincided with fasting. And I feel like my body actually healed properly, because I eventually moved on to like intermittent fasting every single day, where I would do like, I think it's 16-8, 16 hours of fasted, 8 hours of eating. And I started going to the gym, and just through this whole process, I would say my awakening happened more so than ever before. And it just awakened me to all these different facets of the awakening of like what we're all discovering now. And with myself and my healing journey, and like not being at war with my body anymore. Like I finally came into like union with my body for once. And it's amazing because I was the healthiest I ever was. And then I got pregnant with my son. So that changes things in a whole nother level. But it all.
But it's awesome that you got pregnant in that state too.
I know,
that's released all of that like emotional baggage, because as I'm reading, if you're new to this channel, on Sundays I'm going through The Body Keeps the Score, which is about how we hold trauma and
I love that book.
Suppressed energy within our bodies. And like that's amazing that you intuitively knew, like you're like God was prepping you to have that baby, like way before you even knew it.
Yeah, because I was like, I mean, during this time, I was working on generational, like bloodline issues and everything. And I had the realization, whatever you want to call it, that, your body is a roadmap to your healing. Yeah. Anywhere that you store fat is where you feel like you need protection. And like, supposedly like anger is stored in your thighs. And I always had really big chunky thighs. Like, I mean, I played sports and everything my entire life, so like I built a ton of muscle, but like there was also more than that. And I just like knew, and like I just knew that I had so much anger like stored there. So when I would like fascia blast it or like work out that area, I would just get mad. Like I would just release the anger. And it was this whole. And then I would like do like ancestral trauma, inner healing of that kind of nature, of going back in my generational line and like feeling, where this started, even if I didn't feel like it was something I did. Like it all stemmed from fasting. Like my entire journey could probably be, based, like could probably be, said it's from fasting. To get me to where I am today. And obviously I'm not fasting now because I'm pregnant, but because you definitely can't do that.
Yeah.
I remember the first time after I finally stopped nursing my son, which was in the beginning of this year. I was like, I can fast. I'm so excited. I had never been so excited not to eat. Just to finally like give myself a break. Like I felt like my body needed a break, and that's kind of another thing I wanted to say, is like I'm learning now to be even more so intuitive with the fasting. When I was just kind of like doing it because I felt like I had to with the intermittent fasting, I'm like, obviously my body doesn't need it right now. And when I'm trying to like breastfeed and everything too, it doesn't need it at that point. But, it's good to ebb and flow with it also,
Yeah. That is so powerful. And I don't know if this is a super personal question.
Fine, I'm pretty open book.
Okay, so you were like really excited to fast earlier this year. And do you believe that had anything to do with the preparation again for your next baby?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like I feel like my body needs a reset. Like, because I think it was only, I think I had a total of 20 days in between when I stopped nursing and when I got pregnant.
Oh wow, girl.
Isn't that crazy? Like literally.
Back to work.
It's like, well, you're done. I guess we're moving on to the next.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I totally think that was my body's little reset that it needed. And you know, because I've also been doing like over the past, I mean, like most people know, I talk about it openly, but I had a miscarriage in November and I felt like my body needed to detox. Like I just knew that that was what was wrong because the baby never got to the stage of like it actually having a heartbeat. So it wasn't like late, it was very early, but it was still super painful. And I just like knew in my head that or in my heart, wherever, that I needed to detox the past 2 years, whatever, you know, because I hadn't done any kind of detoxing since before I got pregnant because I was nursing the whole time. So like a good 3 years of just built up crap in my system. So I started doing a heavy metal detox and a parasite cleanse. And literally at 4 months after I had my miscarriage, I got pregnant again. Like it was like, yep, that was it. That literally was it. And I've had a very healthy pregnancy, no problems, no complications at all. And I even made my husband do it just in case. But yeah, I probably will do that every time I have a child, I'm sure.
I mean,
that reset.
It's worked pretty well for you so far. So
exactly.
That is amazing. Like, I wish more women knew about that. And it makes so much sense because, like I was saying before, if we're attacked from so many angles, and our womb is not in a good state because of all the toxins, pollutants, and chemicals that we're taking in, how can that support be like the healthiest state that it can be to support life?
Exactly. And apparently most heavy metals and parasites are trapped in your organs, which sit right on top of your uterus.
Oh yeah, that's
and
so
can
true.
leach into that like super easily. So it's all very connected. And I surprisingly have had a lot of friends recently have the same issue where they've had miscarriages and not been able to get pregnant afterwards, but they have not done any type of cleanse or anything either. And I'm like, get you a cleanse, do it. Like if you really, really want to heal your body and get it in the state where it can, you know, host another being, you know, you've got to clean it out. Like I feel like as women, we have so much more so of a responsibility to take care of our bodies, and that may be why we're a little more intuitive than most men, just because we literally are a portal for life, you know. It's like it's the responsibility that we have.
That's so beautiful. Like it's so powerful, the testimony that you have to share with other women, you know. Really cool. Do you have anything else you want to add to that?
I mean, I'm kind of also like learning a lot about like metabolic eating also. So like that's why I say I'm finding it's really important to like not just fast just to fast or just fast just to lose weight. It's very important to just listen, actually, like I said, like not be at war with your body anymore and listen to what it's actually screaming for. Because pretty much any, you know, disease, illness, sickness is your body screaming for attention. It's like a toddler, you know, it's like, you won't do what I need you to do, so I'm going to put you in this state so that you'll do something about it. And that's exactly what toddlers do. So I am, you know, after I have this baby, I'm not going to start intermittent fasting like I did after my son. I had a lot of issues with nursing. Even though I did it for 2 years, it still was like my milk supply never actually really got to where it should be. And I know that was because of intermittent fasting. Like I didn't need to do it. I was just doing it out of like almost like a religious practice. Like I have to do this to lose weight, you know, to get back to my pre-baby body. And I really shouldn't have done that like at all. Because I was also intermittent fasting, trying to nurse when I got pregnant with a miscarriage. And so it was like way too much in my body.
Yes,
way
a lot
too
of
much.
stress.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I feel like a lot, I mean, partially I needed to detox, but then partially I needed to just let my body heal and catch up from anything that I lost with pregnancy and fasting and nursing. And so this time around, I'm totally like trying to do a more metabolic type of eating like before, so just so I can regulate my hormones again, because women's hormones are so different than men's hormones, and most diets and studies have been done on men and not women because we have such complicated hormones. And so I feel like I'm just, this time around, I'm totally going to listen more so to my body and wait until it's really ready to start fasting again if I need to, or if I don't, you know, and just trying to give it the supply that it needs, you know. So yeah, that's kind of, I'm like, my little mindset is kind of changing. You know, I was like all for fasting. Fasting is everything, you know, to, okay, maybe I don't need to obsess about it so much. I like, you know, my body's healed enough for now. And then when I'm ready for the next little bit of healing, I'll do it then. I don't have to push it. You know, I don't have to strive for it so much anymore.
Right. That's really cool how fasting has also put you more in tune with your body and more in tune with, like, it's helped you to heal your relationship with food and with eating, as you said, and with like listening to what it's telling you. Like, that's really powerful, because if our stomach is our second brain, as we're told, and we're constantly clouding it with all this information in the form of food, and usually like processed food like products that aren't really food, or, you know, carb, sugar, whatever, chemicals and extracurricular crap that's in there, you know, and it's not going to be able to send us the signals that it needs to be able to truly heal until we get to a disease state, like whether it's acute or chronic.
Right.
So that's so true.
I was even thinking about how, like, probably during that time when I was doing a lot of fasting, totally like opened up my pineal gland so much more. And that's probably why I started doing a whole lot more spiritually and like opening up more spiritually. So, because I always say my awakening happened in a religious, spiritual way before it ever happened in a political kind of way. Because I kind of started deconstructing religion like first, and kind of moving into more like what I call kingdom-minded principles and whatnot. But yeah, it was one of those, I used to even make a joke like, my brain doesn't have any vitamins to care, you know, like doesn't have any nutrients to care right now. I am fearless, you know, like, which is not really a good place to be, but at the same time, it like freed me up so much, you know. But yeah, it's definitely a powerful tool if you let it be, and don't abuse it. One way that I felt like it healed my relationship with food was I learned how to say no. It literally taught me how to say no to food because I did not feel like I could before, just from my upbringing and like, you know, just cultural, like I live in the South. It's just, you know, it's a Southern mentality of, you know, just all kinds of crappy food. Like all kinds of heavy, crappy food. And it, you know, it taught me how to say no. And it's really funny because there's that whole principle of you cannot say no, or you cannot say yes until you can fully say no. And I feel like that's a very, very good little quote for my little journey.
Wow. Okay. When you said metabolic eating, what was the term you said?
Metabolic eating.
What exactly does that mean? I don't know if I've heard that term before.
So it's so because our food is so depleted from nutrients and minerals and the things we need, especially as women for our hormones, it's very important to fuel your body in the correct way. So that's like with healthy proteins, fats, and then like minimal carbs. It's kind of, I don't like keto, but it's kind of keto-esque.
Mhm.
You just, when your blood sugar, it's very much tracking your blood sugar and whatnot. And like, when your blood sugar starts to dip down, you eat a little bit of something that has a protein and a fat in it to regulate it and keep it stable so that you're not overproducing insulin.
Mhm.
So I really started looking into this because the last time I was pregnant, I had gestational diabetes. And it was because I was not eating enough, like at all. So my blood sugar would go so low that it would spike. And my insulin was like, or I was creating too much insulin and becoming insulin resistant. It
Mhm.
was like a whole mess.
Yeah.
And so this time I'm trying not to have gestational diabetes. And the way I'm doing that is by eating metabolically and like adding minerals to my water, which we've talked about before. But, adding the salt and the magnesium and like, vitamin C and stuff like that to my water, and then having something almost every 2 to 3 hours that is just something small that'll fuel and keep my body going. And it's usually a healthy fat and a protein, and then maybe a little bit of carbs, but that's apparently women that are menstruating should do that more so regularly, because that is what our cycle essentially needs to be able to create a human. Because if you're in constant fasting mode or a state of I can't say that word, autophagy.
Autophagy.
Autophagy, that's what it is. If you're in a constant state of that, your body's like trying to heal itself and it can't create a human kind of thing.
Okay, yep.
So it's not recommended for people that are trying to have children to be fasting. It's not like, because your body is in such a focus driven healing mode, and they say stress too, but it's really just your body's like focusing on healing and, eating the bad stuff, that it will do the same to a possible baby.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why I'm like, okay, so I'm learning that now. Like, it's not all about fasting. It's about listening to my body and whatever state of life I'm actually in.
Mhm.
Because they mess with our hormones so much, and diet culture messes with our hormones so much.
Yeah.
The constant needing to be skinny and whatnot. And if you come in a very unhealthy mindset with fasting and see it as a way to get skinny, like, you are screwing your hormones, screwing them.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of what I've been learning recently, but I still firmly believe in fasting because it's really changed my life in a lot of different areas. And, it was great for the time that I did it, and it was very needed. But, that's not the stage that I'm in right now, obviously being pregnant, but, and like trying to host life and sustain life. So, yeah. But healing before I got pregnant was definitely a necessity for my body, I think.
Yeah. That is so cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just like the coolest thing to me that you just knew. Awesome. Well, I want to talk a little bit about my journey with fasting. So it started out first, what year was it? That was last year. Okay. So when I was like intentionally doing it, I was doing this like fasting and prayer for 21 days, but it wasn't like, it was intermittent fasting. So I think I was doing 16 and 8, but I was also getting really deep into my prayer life and like really getting in tune with myself and my relationship with spirit. And it was just like super, super powerful. That was still when I was like on the tail end of like letting go of the last part of my religious stuff. But either way, like, you can still pray and not be religious. So I'm not saying that, but I guess in terms of like the material that I was using for was like kind of like some churchy related stuff. But anyway, long story short, and the overall benefit was that I did get the connectedness with my body and with spirit from that fasting journey, and like dissociating from food and depriving myself, depriving myself, but not in an unhealthy way of food, because it can be a distraction, you know. Like, how many times have we just in general, you know, run to food for comfort, or if we're depressed or bored or angry, or, you know, socializing and or just eating and eating and eating, and it's just like not being intentional with it, or, you know, just overindulging. So it's like, that's an awesome thing about fasting, is it teaches us to be intentional. It heals our relationship with food. It teaches us that we don't have to eat 3 times a day if we're not hungry, you know, and we don't have to like overindulge at every single meal and eat and abuse our bodies to the point where we're like stuffed and need to be rolled away from the table. Like, that is a form of self-abuse if we're stuffing ourselves, you know? And it's not comfortable.
No.
It's not, like, please, one person tell me that you're comfortable being stuffed. Like, for real talk. Like, anyway,
that's why you go to sleep. You go into like a coma. Like, your body can't handle it.
Right. Yeah, so my stories aren't as cool as yours, but okay, so I did that. I think that was I did 2 bouts of that. Actually, that started in 2021 in like the fall, I think. And then I think I did it again in February of 2021. Did I just say fall of 2020 and then like February 2021? There we go. And then from like May through July, I like really dove in, and I started doing like full days of like not eating. So I started with 1 day, and then I broke it like, because I was like working up to 4 or 5 days. That's the most I've done, was 4 days. I could have done 5, but I think I had like my friend's birthday party or something. It's like my sister, and I was like, oh, we're gonna eat because I have a cookout, so I'm gonna have to eat something. But yeah, it was in like a few days, so I was like, I'll just start weaning back onto food. Anyway, yes, I did 1, took a break, did 2 days, and long story short, I worked up to 4. And what was really cool is I found out how like strong and efficient my body still could be without food. Because like that whole time I was still running, like I was still running a 5K every day and lifting.
That's crazy.
and on day 4, like, I'm not even kidding this, I woke up, I lifted, then I went to the lake and I ran a 5K. So I had already lifted for like 2 hours, ran a 5K. And then I had a date later that day with some dude, and I was like, well, I'm not eating right now, so let's go for a hike. So we hiked for like almost 2 hours.
Oh my gosh.
All of that fasted.
Wow.
And like on the hike toward the end, I could start to kind of feel my body. Like I was getting kind of like short of breath, but it wasn't anything to where I was like, oh, go on without me, you know? But it's just really interesting. Like, our bodies are so freaking amazing, and the things that we're taught that we need to be able to survive, or the things that we're like, are like, what's it fed to us as like routine, and like it needs to be this way, and da 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 da. It's like no, I was just listening to something, and like indigenous and ancient cultures, they would eat with the food that was available during that season. You know, they eat the crops that were available during that season. If there was like not as much food, then sometimes they would fast, because it was like a necessity, and it wasn't a like, oh my God, I'm not gonna have my Doritos today. You know,
Right.
it was
Right.
like,
Yeah.
it's just like that was life. And it's
Right.
not a big deal. You know, we can actually go longer without food than we can without water.
Yeah.
So
And you can even actually go longer without water than they say too. That's called like the snake fast or something like that. It's really intense, but it does wonders to your body if you can handle it.
You've done that?
No, I have not done it. I have not gotten brave enough to do it yet.
Wow, yeah.
You also, it's like one of those, you will not be able to actually do anything. You just literally let your body lay there and heal, because you're not drinking any water. You're completely like dehydrating your body, and you'll start to get achy. And apparently the achiness is where your body's healing. It's focusing its energy on where it needs to heal. And I always get achy in my lower back and in my left hip, because those are my, like, I've had issues with those my whole life. And it's always those specific places, and my neck, because my neck is straight. But it's just weird because when I have like fasted after, I think day 3, I started to feel that way anyways, even with drinking water. But apparently with like the snake fast, I don't know why it's called the snake fast, but it you start to feel that effect like day 1. You'll get a massive headache, you know, from not drinking water. But apparently it's incredible, but you should not do it that often, you know.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
But yeah,
that's awesome. Do you know how long
I think you only do it for 3 to 5 days, technically, because you're not eating either. It's like your body can survive without water if you're eating, you know, like fruit and stuff like that. But I mean, I look at my husband, like when I met him, never drank water, ever.
Oh yeah, that's
ever.
right.
And then he comes here and I'm like, you need to drink more water. And he's like, why? Like, because it's not good for you. And then I learned that, you know, drowning your body in water is not great either. You know? But you know, he's like what you were saying with like tribal stuff. Like, I mean, he came from a tribe, and you know, he would have times where he would just unintentionally fast because they just didn't have any food, or like it just wasn't available to him as readily, and you know, it wasn't a big deal. Like, he even does it now sometimes where he's just like, I'm just not in the mood to eat, and I'm like, okay, so I don't have to make dinner. Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, that's fine with me.
That's so funny.
Yeah, he's very, very in tune and connected to his body, and I think it's because he's not from the Western world. At all. So, you know, he will never force himself to eat more than he's feeling satisfied. He'll always leave. He eats, it's kind of funny how he eats. Like, he eats a very small breakfast, then he'll have something for lunch, then he'll want a giant dinner, but he'll only eat half of it. He'll eat half of it, and then like 2 to 3 hours later, he'll eat the other half. And then he'll go to sleep. And like, he's done that the whole time I've known him. And he is the most fit, in shape person naturally. I mean, he's African, but like, you know, they kind of come built differently. But, it's kind of funny to watch because it's so drastically different than what I grew up with. But I also heard you were talking about breakfast, lunch, like, you know, what's the schedules that are given to us, like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I heard someone say that is all just a marketing tool to get you to buy certain foods.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to literally eat like a toddler does, like a little bit every day, like all day long.
Yeah.
Like tiny bits. Like, I think about how my toddler eats, and he literally eats a bite of something like every couple hours. Like, just a bite. Like, that's it. I'm like, well, you are smaller than me, but I mean, I get it. I try not to like force that out of him if possible, but yeah, it's really interesting. It's one of those ways, like, you know, with the awakening and everything, it's like just another section of it. Like, you know, deprogramming everything that's been taught to us about our bodies and food and the way things have to be with our bodies and food. Because I preach all the time on my channel. I'm like, your body is like the most amazing technology that ever existed.
Yeah.
Why do you think all of the bad people want it? Or don't want us to be here in this physical body? Like, it's not just a meat suit. It's not just, you know, like something to just discard and deem as bad. It's like such a tool if you'll let it be, you know?
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I was going to say, so one of the points in my fasting, I don't remember if it was 2 or 3 days, like on my 2 or 3 day stint, and I'll be quick because I'm not really sure how long we've been on, because we we got on and we were pretty much chatting for like 30-40 minutes. So, and my timer is like, I don't know when we actually hit record. Yeah, so I think it was 2 or 3 days, and I've talked a little bit about mushrooms on my channel, I think, or I've talked about them in videos, but I did my first journey by myself with mushrooms, fasted 2 or 3 days, and it was like awesome because I didn't have, and you all, like, just a disclaimer, like, I highly respect plant life and the healing that it can, the healers that they are, and I don't use mushrooms for recreational use or like as a cool thing, or, you know, no way. And plus, I don't even like the way that I'm sensitive to substances, so the way that it affects me, I'm like, I don't know how people take this, y'all, and go to a party or go to some huge like, what?
No.
I'm like too sensitive already, like sober to other people's energies, and with that, y'all, like,
no.
I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I'll stay at home, relax, like, you know, letting the information come and the healing come. But it's pretty amazing. Like, I was seeing like sacred geometry, and I did some pretty deep healing and some pretty awesome revelations about my life, and like just like it, and the speed at which the information comes, it's just like zoom, 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 zoom. And my mind is already like that, but it was like and there were times when I had to be like, okay, wait, hold on, like I would literally have to be like that.
You're like, wait, I have to remember this, wait.
Yeah, seriously, and just like play it back, and okay, and just like kept going. But it's just like, I don't know, I'm like such an information person that, like, I feel like I'm like this super processor anyway, because I love data and information and like sharing.
Well, you're probably like me, like a sponge. Like I feel like anybody I'm around, I'm just like absorbing all the information possible that they're like giving out to me. I'm just like, I'm soaking it all in. Yeah, and like a note taker. But so that was pretty cool too. And I've done I haven't done a bunch of like mushroom journeys to the point where it's like I'm taking enough to get a psychedelic type experience. I do microdose though, taking a very, very small amount, and that is like a medicinal type thing. But I think I've maybe only journeyed like 4 or 5 times maybe, because it's like intuitively I know when it's time to like go back in. That's what I call it. And it's I don't know, it's just not something that I do regularly. But anyway, that was really cool to do it fasted, because I felt like that was my first time alone where I actually had a psychedelic experience, and I felt like it was very pure. And, like really incredible information that came forward for me. You were talking about the electrolytes that we were talking about. So you all, I wrote down what I was taking
during my full days of fasting. So magnesium glycinate is one of them, and then potassium chloride. And I would just, I don't remember how much I did, and I'm sure you can just look it up, but I had like a huge jug of water, and I just had it in that, and that's what I drank. And it's funny because it's basically like salt water.
Yeah.
And I got to the point where I was like kind of craving it, because it's kind of like, because it's like the only flavor you're getting. So it's like, this is good. It's like,
I mean, and if you're not eating anything, you know, your body needs those minerals like so much more, because you're not getting them from anywhere else.
Right.
You know? Yeah. I actually have to take the magnesium glycinate to sleep.
Yeah, so I think I actually messed up when I bought the one that I think I was supposed to get gluconate.
Yeah, glycinate makes you sleepy.
The sleepy one. Yeah, but I found that out, but I was like, whatever,
You're just kind of like a woo state.
I know, yeah. So I have a huge ass bulk bag of it, but I haven't done one of those fasts, like a full day fast or days in a while. Like it's been over a year now that we're in August. And I really feel another one coming on. I intermittent fasted today, and I do that regularly, but I really would love to do a full day fast, but it's kind of hard when you're in a house full of other people, and either like you have to cook or something, you know, like I was on my own, and it was just me and my pets, so I didn't have to worry about making anybody food except for the dog and the cat. Like it totally rewires your brain. I'm like, I forget to eat, you know, kind of thing. Like, I have to do that, don't I? Like, I guess I'm feeling a little busy. I probably should eat, you know, like when I'm not fasting. That's kind of how it rewired my brain. I was like, this is so weird, because like before, all I could think about was, what am I going to eat next? Next meal, I gotta have a road snack.
And even to this day, like, I mean, that's one of the hardest things of being pregnant is I'm like, oh yeah, I have to eat. Like, oh, dang it.
Feed the baby.
No, gotta feed the baby. The baby will get real mad if I don't. This one kicks me when I don't eat. So Levi didn't do it, but this one does.
So cute. Liz, that was like really cool, and I'm so glad and thankful that you shared your story, because that's really freaking incredible information that the people need to hear. Like, this is perfect material for my channel, and I'm sure like you were saying, you empower people to heal themselves and take their health into their own hands on your channel as well. And this is vital information. Like, this doesn't cost any money, you all. It just takes your like dedication and you know, the willpower and the courage to do this. It's not even a hard thing once you get started too. Just keep yourself busy.
It's amazing how empowering it actually is, you know. That's the key to it. Keep yourself busy. Or, you know, get into some meditative states or whatever, you know.
Definitely do that. Because isn't there, I don't know if in the Bible, or I don't know, aren't there some things that can only be really released in a fasted state? I've heard that.
I mean, all through the Bible is all about, like, there's different types of fast all throughout the Bible, you know, and people would do it in biblical times for kind of remind me of like, we're not eating until you do this, you know, kind of thing. Like, you know, it's for like breakthroughs and like it almost like leveling up in their life. And I feel like it totally does that. I'm sure there's so much more to it than like what we've been told about it and what's, you know, been taken out of the Bible and everything. But it almost seems like that's when biblically people would do it, was when they needed to level up. You know, and they did afterwards. So it's a very powerful thing.
Awesome. Well, this was so good. Thank you so much for being on my show.
Thanks for having me.
Is there anything else you want to add? Oh, where can people find you? You all, I'm gonna put Liz's links below, but
you can just search the Liz Olive Show on YouTube, or I'm on TikTok, which is, I think, Liz Olive 33. But I mean, for here, the Lizolive show is what's searchable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, and I'll put your links down below, you all. So
I'll do the same on my channel, since this video will probably go on my channel as well.
awesome. Well, thank you so much. And so my information will be in the description box below as well for personal readings. If you want to get in touch with me for business inquiries or anything of that sort, my email's down there. And so remember, you all are sovereign, powerful, worthy, and loved. I love you all so much, and we will see you on the next one. Bye.
Bye.
Every day is a gift.